Welcome to the On Your Side podcast. I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell.
You know, we're talking today about one of my favorite topics. And you know I have
There's a top three.
There's a top three. It's money, it's real estate.
And cars.
And it's cars. I love you. You know my little hobby that I have. I think I'm pretty good with if a car is made in 1967 or more. Okay, or
okay,
or
so
newer.
younger. So 67 and younger.
No, 67 and older. I could tell the year.
Oh, like so like the 50s and 60s, you're good at that?
No. If it's 67, I was born in 67, so anything above that, I can
so
I
that
can
would be
nail
younger.
it.
Those are younger vehicles.
Okay,
right?
but yeah, 40s and 50s.
Okay.
I'm out of it.
So you can look at any picture and you can say that's from that year.
Well, usually has to be in person, but I mean, I go by the tail lights, the headlights.
That's a fun little fact about you.
Well, they tend to change little minor things, and just ever since I was a kid, I always took notice of it. Just to, I don't know why.
What is your dream car? Like, if you could have whatever classic dream car you wanted, what would it be? Is that a fair question to ask?
Well, it's fair, but there's so many out there.
You got to choose one.
I'm going to have to get back with you on the
No.
What about you?
I'm putting you on the spot right this second.
Wow. Well, I'm driving my dream car right now.
Okay. So I'm thinking more like the classics. So if I had a dream car, I would go 62 Corvette.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
You know what?
It sounds good, right?
You have piqued my interest on this. I'm going to go with a 67 Corvette.
Okay.
Wow. Hey, we agree on something here, right?
Let's get some Corvettes.
Well, listen, it costs a lot of money. And if you have that kind of money, you just buy it all right. But we're talking about financing cars and interest rates and what are the pros and cons of refinancing a car. So we're talking to Brian Moody today. He joins us on the On Your Side podcast, and Brian is the executive editor of Autotrader. How you doing today, Brian?
I am doing well. My dream car is a 1957 BMW 507.
Whoa.
And I'll bet you no person in their right mind would finance that.
Whoa.
That sounds like a pretty one.
I mean, just one reason why. I mean, what's so special about that car?
I challenge you to find a more beautiful car in the modern era. I just don't think it can be done.
Okay.
Wow. I'm going to have to look this up. So it was a 57 BMW?
507. Yep.
Oh, boy.
We're going to look it up next.
Are we talking about my current salary or just sky's the limit? Because that might change my answer.
Yeah, sky's the limit for my 62 Corvette, too. That's not on the current salary either.
It's a pipe dream for both of us. Hey, tell us where you're joining us from, because it's a great backdrop. Looks like an auto show. Where are you at?
Yep. I am in Santa Clara, California for the Silicon Valley Auto Show. And that features a bunch of, as you can imagine, electric cars. You know, everyone talks about electric cars and how they're like, 6, 7, 8% of the market. In this part of the world, in the Bay Area and California, maybe California in general, it's 25% of new cars sold. So that's what we're here checking out, new cars and new electric cars.
Are you liking what you see over there?
I do, because a lot of electric cars now have a little bit more style, a little bit more class. I don't know if you remember when they first kind of reintroduced electric cars, because they've been around since the 1900s, but when they reintroduced them, they kind of looked dorky. It was like this dopey hatchback that I don't know that anybody would want. Now they have style, they have some finesse, they have performance and luxury. So I don't think an electric car works for me, but at least they're better looking now. Yeah,
well, it's all about the look. I mean, you don't want to buy an ugly car.
Well, you want it to work first and foremost, and then let's get it to be pretty. We have to talk. We've talked over the past couple of years about inventory problems with vehicles, and now there's no inventory problems, but interest rates are really high. Give us just a quick lay of the land of what we're looking at if you're a car shopper right now.
So it would be really tough to be a car shopper right now, because a couple things we know. The average transaction price for new cars for January of 2024 versus January of 2023, those transaction prices are down 3.5%. So good news, the prices are coming down. The hard part is interest rates are very high, except, and this is a big except, there are a handful of automakers that are offering incentives, and some of those incentives are low APR. So for example, I can tell you right now, I know of a Mazda, Nissan, and a Toyota where the interest rate is either 0, 1.9, or 2.9. That's a dramatic difference from someone who's not shopping for one of those cars and is going to pay 6, 7, 9%.
That's an interesting point. And manufacturers do have great incentives. You just got to make sure that you qualify. A lot of people, we always advocate to get your loan. If you're going to finance, get your loan kind of set in stone before you do your shopping. That way you know exactly how much you could afford, how much your car payment's going to be. But some people, they still like going to the dealership and finding it and then financing through the dealer. With that said, can you negotiate the interest rate that the dealer gives you?
Yes. In fact, I would do what you just said, which is to get pre-approved from your credit union or bank, then go down to the dealer and say, hey, I'm going to give you a chance to beat that rate. And maybe they can, because oftentimes dealers have access to tools that other institutions don't have. For example, if they sell 100 cars or if they have a special incentive program, there's manufacturer to customer incentives, but remember, there's also manufacturer to dealer incentives that we don't always know about. So give them the chance to beat your loan rate, and there's a good chance that they can do that. So have it set, like you said, but also give them a chance to beat it, and then you can pick which one works best for you, because a high interest rate can dramatically affect your monthly payment and your overall cost of the car.
And these dealers, they do get somewhat of a kickback if they are successful in financing the car through one of their financiers, right? I mean, so it's good for them. They want you to finance through them.
They do. Yeah, they do. And also what I would keep in mind is before you do any of this, like let's just take a step back. Buying a car, whether it's new or used, should be treated like you would treat any other serious financial transaction. Don't just show up. Know your credit score, for example. It doesn't matter if you have a low credit score or a high credit score. That's going to affect the loan, of course. But what matters more is people don't like to be surprised. You show up, you think you're going to get this great deal, you think you're going to get this car, only to find out, oh no, I don't qualify for that. Wouldn't you want to know that before you go down there? I think you should.
Yeah.
Way back when, a standard term for an auto loan would be 3 years, 4 years, maybe tops. We are getting into a place where people are financing vehicles for 7, 8, 9, even I've seen 10 years in some cases, which just feels like a never ending cycle to pay for a vehicle that, you know, the entire time you're owning it. Walk me through, are we getting into a dangerous place with people potentially ending upside down in their vehicle loans?
Yes, I think the word that you were searching for when you said it kind of feels, I think the word is wrong, because who would do that? Like that's not a financially wise thing to do. If you have to get your car loan over a 10-year period, over a 7-year period, I would even say even a 6-year period, that's the wrong car for you. You're buying too much car. Buy the car that you can afford. And here's one more thing that you just brought up that really makes a great point. It's why you don't shop by monthly payment. I could sell you a new Ferrari for $300 a month. Easy, done. Right? I could do it.
I just get to pay for it forever and ever and ever.
Well, you'll be financing it for 30 years like a house.
But that's the question that you need to be asking. At what cost? How much is the interest rate? And how much do I pay when this is all said and done? What you want to do is find a car that's the price that you can afford, or that's a reasonable price. Put as much money down as possible, then try to make the financing work around that. If you just shop only by monthly payment, I don't know, $400 a month. Well, there's 100 different cars that could fit in that category, but they may not be a good deal, and it might not be the right car for you.
And you know what? That does come up. Yeah. I just did a car shopping experience over the summer, and that came up so many times. People kept saying, what do you want to spend per month? And I kept saying, that's not the conversation we're having. I have a set amount of money. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you that set amount of money. Yes. We're going to finance a little bit on the back end.
Right.
And I don't want to talk about a monthly payment at all.
That's the worst question they ask me, because, I mean, people fall into that, though. They're like, I can only do about $300 a month.
And then off to the races.
Then you have just unloaded and unleashed a lot of problems that you don't want to have. You better go to a different dealership.
For people who do end up in an auto loan that they realize they cannot afford, but they are also upside down in the vehicles, you know, meaning that they owe a lot more than the vehicle is actually worth? Are there options to make the financial situation maybe just a little bit better? Can you refinance auto loans the same way you can refinance a house?
You can, but here's what I tell people. Refinancing with the goal of lowering your payment should only be done in an extreme emergency. So, for example, if you lost your job and you need your car to go find the next job, okay, they're going to want to stretch the payments out to lower your payment. And if you have no other choice and you're like, I'm back against this wall here. Okay, maybe. Or if you know, for example, that you bought a car in the past year and a half and your interest rate's 12%, and you know you can go get a loan or another car right now for 6, 7, or 3%, maybe do it then. But it always has to be to your advantage. That's the only reason that you would ever do that, is that you gain something. Remember, when you refinance, you pay off the old loan and apply for a new one. So it's a slight hit against your credit when you're calling against your credit to get a new loan. That's temporary, but it should only be done if you know the terms and you're really just backed up against a wall.
The average car payment for a new car right now is $726, and for a used car, it's $533. Those are some big numbers, and they tend to be increasing, year after year.
Right. So the number that you said for the new cars was 700 something?
Yeah, 726.
Okay, so you know what that means? That means many people are paying a lot more than that. I mean, listen, it's nice to have a nice car, but I know for a fact that you could go find a great car for $10,000.
Yep.
Cars today are a lot more durable. And when I went to go buy my kid a car, I had certain requirements: anti-lock brakes, traction control, stability control, curtain airbags, and of course, airbags, and a car that's reasonably reliable. I found that car for $6,000. I wouldn't put my kid in some classic car with no airbags or some beat up car. That I found a car that fit my needs for $6,000. I think a lot more people could do that also. And imagine what you could do with the extra, I don't know, $800 per month. Yeah, you're not cool that minute that you pull up, but let's face it, when we think about Romy and Michelle pulling up to the high school reunion, it never happens like that. It almost never. You park way in the back. They didn't see your Mazda or whatever it was.
Right. What was your
such a good throwback?
What was your first car, Susan?
Oh my goodness. It was a 1994 Dodge Intrepid.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. So it was my dad's car and he handed it down to me. I don't think my dad ever to this day has purchased a new vehicle for himself.
Yeah.
My mom, they're frugal people.
Right.
My mom has gotten new cars, but she keeps them and drives them for the entire lifespan of that vehicle.
Right.
So I got his hand-me-down 1994 Dodge Intrepid, and it had some fun quirks. It was like one of those cars. My dad was a car guy, is a car guy.
Yeah.
I didn't want to tell him about the quirks because I was fearful that I would lose access to the car. And then all of a sudden, if I lose access to the car, there's not a backup plan.
So zip it.
So I didn't say anything for a very long time.
Yeah.
That car did not shift out of first gear, and I would drive from my high school to my house in first gear, and you could hear me coming down the street.
Oh my gosh, that is something you needed to tell your dad.
I mean, he found out because he was home early from work one day, and he heard me pulling in, and he was like, "What is happening?"
Does that just make you cringe, Brian, hearing something like that? Oh my gosh.
Well, I was going to say, your first car and myself might have something in common, because my wife says that I have some fun quirks. But I would say a car that doesn't shift out of first does not fall into the category of a fun quirk.
I know. Yeah. Well, so here's the catch. I figured it out. If I jiggled the key in the ignition enough, sometimes it could make all the electronics come on the way they were supposed to.
Oh my gosh. You scare me.
That car, it lived a good life. I loved it.
I think I've told you this before. I like to tell people my first car was a Vet. But the caveat, it was a 1979 Chevy Chevette, Brian. Well,
that doesn't count, Gary.
Hey, listen, I had a Pioneer stereo and speakers. I was rocking
Hilarious.
that. I was rocking that hatchback, man.
Hilarious.
It was good stuff. Yeah. Hey, interest rate right now it depends on your credit score, but if I think a lot of people fall between 660 and 780, the average rate for a used car, 9.3%. That is extremely high, and I think that's why people are going for a longer term.
Right. But now this is going to sound like one of those things that like, oh, well, that's just what car dealers tell you. But if you can trade that car in or sell that car and go get a new car with a 2.9% financing or a 0% financing, if you qualify, that's a massive savings. So could a new car be cheaper than a used car? Yes, it could, especially right now, because used car loans, the interest rate is typically much higher. But here's the trick. Not all new cars are going to have those favorable loans. You have to research and go find the one that can work for you and the one that's going to have that incentive.
Let me just tell everybody that Google is your friend. So go to Google, put in Buick incentives, GM incentives, Toyota incentives, but just any car that you're interested in, and they will pop up. A lot of these incentives are not even advertised, so you got to find them, and you're going to come across, like you said, Brian, 1.9%, 2.9%. You can get a heck of a nice car that would be about the same price per month as a used car because it's lower interest rate. It just makes sense.
Right. And you can even, this to be a little bit self-promoting here, you can even Google December deals on Autotrader, and it will give you the December deals for that month. So Good Car Deals, Autotrader, you'll see low APR, cash back, as well as subsidized leases. Sometimes leases are good for people, but most of the time they're not. If you're in a tight situation, or say you're stationed someplace for a short period of time, and there's a $99 down for $200 a month, and you know you're going to be here for just those 2 or 3 years, that could work for you. But if you go look for those, then find a car that works for you, you're going to get around that interest rate, let's just say. It's not to your advantage to just show up someplace. You have to do a lot of research ahead of time. You should know well ahead of going to a dealership, here's 3 cars that I know are in contention.
Yeah, and get on their website too, and they're all posted, their inventory. So narrow it down before you even get there, and just come prepared.
Right. Yeah, the only thing you have to do once you're there is literally sit in the car to feel it out and see if it smells funny or anything like that.
And drive it. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Brian, thank you so much. What a great conversation on cars. My favorite, or top 3 favorite topics anyway. If people want to find out more about Autotrader or anything else, social media, where can we find you?
Yeah, go to Autotrader.com. Also, we have an enthusiast channel as well that you guys might like. It's Autotrader.com/oversteer. That's more of the fun stories, but go to Autotrader for all of the shopping advice, low APR, what car should I get, how do I get a good deal, all that stuff is there on Autotrader.
We did look up a photo of your BMW dream car. It is a beauty.
It is. It's
It's a beauty.
It's fantastic. It's
telling you.
It's beautiful.
Whenever you figure out how to get that car, you'll have to take us both for a spin.
Yep, we want to see you behind the wheel.
Done.
All right, hey, listen, enjoy that auto show there, and thanks for being on the On Your Side podcast.
Yep. Thank you.
The On Your Side podcast is produced by Brad Denny. Our audio engineer and editor is Todd Martin. Segment producer is Colin Stanton, and I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell. If you have a problem you can't resolve, maybe we can. Send us a message through azfamily.com or our AZ Family mobile app. Look for the On Your Side section and leave us a message. Thanks so much for listening to the On Your Side podcast. And if you like it, leave us a review. We'll see you next week.
On Your Side is on Good Morning Arizona every weekday morning at 6:45 and 7 o'clock, and every weekday evening on Good Evening Arizona at 4 and 5 o'clock. You can also catch it on Arizona's Family News at 9 on 3TV every weeknight.